Now, for the first time in 135 years, people will be ready to listen. Now, for the first time in my lifetime, they will be ready to listen. For the next 10 to 15 years, they will be ruled by hard times and depression. Inflation, perhaps even a hyperinflation. Now they will listen. But will you have anything to say to them? You may be asking yourself, who am I? Why would anyone listen to me? Well, one reason is because nobody else will have any answers. Nobody else will have any answers or any ideas other than more of the same poison that is already killing us. You have to overcome the fear that paralyzes you. Every one of us has fear, and it paralyzes us and keeps us from acting. The first fear is the fear that there will be a collapse that will take us back to Stone Age living. Let me tell you something. I'm not afraid of that one. I'm not afraid. I'll get out there in the flower pots and dig grubs with the best of them. Okay? I'm not afraid of that. But the fear of that collapse has paralyzed many of our people who envision their lives from here on, as Michael said, sitting on 1,500 pounds of beans, surrounded by boxes of .45 ammo, loaded up in the basement. Listen, this is not the time to do that. This is not the end. This is the beginning. This is the time to build. This is the time to take risks. This is the time when fortunes will be made for generations. And that is not the only reason that's not the only goal here. This is the time that our future will be determined for generations by the institutions that we put in place now. So put aside fear, put aside the timidity that keeps you scared of taking risks. I want to tell you something. I know that New Agers get a bad rap, okay? And I know that most of y'all are Christian people. And when I say the word New Age, boy, it's just like saying sirloin steak to a pit bull. You just get up like this. I'll tell you, I've worked with those people. I have watched them in action. They go to work. They put their money and their time where their mouth is. And because of it, they succeed and they make places for themselves in the world. Frankly, I think that global warming is the most ridiculously unsupportable hogwash that has come along in the last 100, 150 years. There's no scientific proof for it. And yet, because they make a big enough noise, there are millions of Americans who believe that really is a problem. Man, I can't burn rubber tires out in my front yard. Goodness gracious, it would kill the ozone layer. It's not a problem. But you see, those people put themselves to work. And guess what? Christian people don't do that. We don't do that. And Southern people have not done it until now. You've got to get out there and take risks. You've got to bet big to win big. Now, our line of attack has to remain that the national economy has failed you. So you must secede from the national economy, what Catherine Fitz calls the tapeworm, that is decapitalizing and destroying you. And you have to rebuild local economies that are sustainable, stable and prosperous, and real. Let me repeat that. This is the line of attack. This is what you ought to say over and over. And if you have to memorize it, that's okay, because this is what you have to say to your neighbors. The national economy has failed you, so you must secede from the national economy. The tapeworm that is decapitalizing and destroying you. And you must rebuild local economies that are sustainable, stable, and prosperous, that is, immune to the disruptions of the national economy, and that are real. And by real, I mean based on real wealth, real production, and not the transfer and shuffling around of electrons and pieces of paper. Real wealth. You know, we laugh about the Indians that sold the Dutch the Manhattan Island for $24 worth of beads, right? Well, at least they got beads. What'd you get? You got electrons. Pieces of paper. We have to engage our allies. You have to look for allies. Now, I'm not asking you to marry these people. Okay? I'm not asking you to ask them home for supper. But they're your allies in this battle, and you're going to find a lot of them are greenies. A lot of them are New Agers. And they sincerely want the same thing that you want. Stable and prosperous local economies that are sustainable within themselves. Look for those people to work with. Don't shun them. Don't run them off. I'd like to tell you, if you talk about rebuilding local economies, and in fact, you talk about local economies, there are zillions of chambers of commerce out there. One idea. They all got one idea. Their road to riches is the big check mentality. We got to find some industry that will come in here and bring some jobs. Okay, and you know what that means. Bring jobs until they find somebody in China to do it cheaper. At which time you're in worse trouble than you were before. I call it the big check mentality. You might call it the pick your brother's pocket mentality. Because what they're trying to do is to bring money from the outside. Forget that. If you're going to rebuild a local economy, the money has to come from the inside. The inside. And we are standing on acres of diamonds. And we're kicking them off like this. Because they're at our feet. Listen, I'm going to tell you a little story. Catherine Fitz told you about the financial permaculture seminar. I saw the data for Lewis County, Tennessee. Now, Lewis County, Tennessee is just hardscrabble poor. It always has been hardscrabble poor. It's got a barren geography. It doesn't have rich soil or anything like that. The biggest deal they used to have was growing peanuts. All right? No offense to anybody from Georgia. 11,350 people. Peanuts. All right? I saw an estimate of the cash flow, of the amount of money in that county based on USDA average consumption, meat, dairy, different sorts of meat, dairy, poultry, and so forth. It was $20 million. $20 million. And another $100 million in other economic activity. And do you know what they're doing right now? That's $130 or $140 million. And every year, the people of Lewis County have to start all over again and go outside the county and somehow scratch up $140 million to bring into that county so they can send it off again next year to Detroit and New York and China. Has somebody missed the point here? Because if we can restore our local economies where money used to circulate among us from hand to hand, if we can just capture part of that cash flow, think about it. Do you know what 200 farms is? $20 million is 200 farms turning over $100,000 a year. There are farmers right now that kill for that. Think about that. And that's just in food. That's not in everything else.